So let's take a step back and look at, in general terms, how the process works. We do our analysis in 3D, we put that to BIM, but then we're forced to dump it to 2D onto paper, flatten all that good content, send it out to somebody who then has to recreate what we meant from 2D drawings in 3D, and they usually have to do it in a fraction of the time. Right? I mean, every detailer in here knows that when they get the notice to proceed, the fire drill starts, and they've got 3 weeks to recreate a 3D model that I spent 9 months on. So, having to go 2D and recreate a 3D model worked before BIM, but right now I don't think that's necessary anymore. So technology has made it pretty easy for us to get our analysis information into BIM reliably. We've been doing this for quite a while. It's a one-way street for us. It's always from analysis down to BIM, but we get all the data that we need to put on our drawings directly from the analysis program for the main framing members, beams and columns, if you will. So now we have all this great content. We come back, add things like the secondary members, hanging steel around the perimeter of the building. Base plates, we're doing some parametric things that we can do, but it takes more time, really. We're not drawing a section on the plan and saying typical around the whole 20,000 square foot floor plate. But I'll argue, though, that the time we spend getting the model right, we get recovery from that when we create our 2D plans, and we have better plans. So if you're really doing a good set of 2D documents, if you just change it instead of focusing on the 2D documents and trying to get the model right, not only have you made your 2D plans better, but you've also got something you can share now. So how does this help? Well, look what happens to shop drawing review. If you're sharing that model data with somebody now, all of these other reviews go away. You don't have to check section size. If your model's right, you don't have to check half of this stuff on here anymore. Now you're just looking for things that don't fit right. Connections, kind of weird things in the building. But you're not having to sit there and go through beam for beam, member for member, and check all these things because you've shared a model with somebody that is accurate. And there's a whole lot of issues that go with this. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but at least for right now, we're going to just leave it at that. So, by sharing, what we've done is we've affected two portions of this whole process here. We've given the detailer good information to start from, that he doesn't have to recreate anything. He can open up a model and he can see our design intent right out of the chute. He doesn't have to put all the plans and sections and details together. So now we've got electronic review going on here, and we've got model sharing going on here, and all of a sudden the effort that everybody's having to put into this is going down. End of 2012, thereabouts, we went back and we looked at some of our previous projects. We're not a gigantic firm. There's 8 of us. Okay, so project size isn't the stuff that we see on all the boards out there. We went ahead and plotted square footage across the bottom, days across the top, across the side here, and we know when CDs go out. We have a pretty good idea when shop drawing review starts for us, because we keep that separate on our timesheet. Is there a gray area where you get anchor bolt plans first, and then you don't, then you get the real meat of the building? Yes. So we tried to, it wasn't intended to be an absolute thing. It was more of, this is, generally speaking, how much time are we spending in some of these phases. So this chart is from when we issued CDs to when I felt like we kind of started shop drawings in earnest. You can see the numbers all over the place. Didn't even matter much on what the size of the building was or anything. We did the same thing for how much time do we spend reviewing shop drawings. Now this all would have been pretty traditional paper drawings, maybe an electronic one thrown in there, with Bluebeam or something, but no full model review or anything like that. So I think everybody could agree it's pretty much of a scatter plot, but we kind of felt like it did demonstrate that there's a lot of time spent there. And granted, all of these had reasons for why they were. I could go back and look at just about every single one, and one of them was quick, needed the project quick. Another one got stalled because they couldn't pick a contractor. But generally speaking, there's a lot of time involved getting from CDs to the finishing of us doing shop drawings. So I had written a white paper last March, and by my count, kind of going the old school way, we were looking at 14 to 17 weeks for when we issued CDs to when we were finished checking shop drawings. Now today, with email, shotgun email, everybody gets a copy at once, maybe that's 11 or 14 weeks. And the point here isn't really to argue about whether it's 10 or 13 or 12 or 15, it's a fair amount of time. And yes, design assist, mill orders, IPD, early involvement by the fabricator and detailer, sequence review, all those kinds of things help shorten this process. But at the end of the day, in my mind, those are attempts to take an outdated process and make it quicker. It's not making it more efficient. And that's what we're trying to solve, is to make it more efficient. They don't address the recreation of data problem, the seemingly endless parade of RFIs, which aren't, that could be a whole nother hour discussion on why there are RFIs. And we'll get to some of that when we talk to the engineers and all. And all the associated delays that go with not being able to get timely answers. So model data has been shared in the past. This is not anything new. I'm not trying to suggest that what we're doing here is something that's come out of the blue. But in the past, at least from what we've seen, it's basically been a one-shot deal. Somewhere at mill order, 50% CDs, somewhere completed CDs. If you were going to share your model data with a detailer, it was done at some point, and generally speaking, everything after that had to be done by hand. Depending on when you shared that initial data, that could be a significant amount of stuff that was still being done by hand. So in 2012, some software stars aligned for us, if you will, that allowed us to share our model data with the detailer via CIS2 of all things. And I know AISC's been, abandoning's not right, but they've selected IFC as kind of the way forward, but CIS2 is still out there. That allows us to incrementally update the detailer's model from our structural BIM. And that's the key to the whole process here, is to actually really making things get shorter. This is not a my detailer's faster than your detailer scenario. The idea here is to reduce human error. So our transfers are electronic. The detailer we're working with is not sitting over my shoulder asking me what changed every day. And this starts pretty early on, perhaps at mill order. If you have a fabricator on board early, it might be at 50% CDs. We'll send them another update where some additional framing comes into play and some secondary framing, and then maybe 95% CDs with the final bit of framing and the remaining secondary framing. So the intentional benefits of this for us were to shorten the preparation time of a fabrication package. We've been able to reduce this 14 to 17, 11 to 14, several weeks here, down to 5 or 6 weeks for a complete fabrication package. That's 2D drawings for the shop, and that's the CNC files for the fabricator. And what it does is it forces coordination. We have to work with the architect and the mechanical guys to get all these questions answered before the drawings go out the door. That's not easy for all of our architects. What we're doing here is not going to work for all of the architects we work with. Some guys just can't make decisions. But the ones that are willing and understand what we're trying to do here, we've been able to get almost all the answers squared away by the time CDs go out. So one of the things I didn't realize is that by doing this and having the detailer working for us, it has made their life extremely easy. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes of why that is. Under the traditional workflow, detailer has a question, he forwards it on to the fabricator. They may not send every question. There may be some things that the fabricator can answer. He sends it to the contractor, sends it to the architect, sends it to us, waits for an answer. Maybe we can get a hold of the architect, maybe we can't. The answer comes back, and enough times out of 10, either didn't answer the right question, they didn't answer it at all, and the cycle continues. So for the remainder of our little discussion here, I want you guys to think about how much time you spend managing RFIs. Okay? I haven't met anybody that does anybody specifically track admin on RFIs? Well, good. Is it a lot of time? Okay. Good answer. Thank you. I don't know of many people that do it. It just kind of goes in the admin, the overhead bucket, and I don't think anybody really appreciates just how much time is spent monkeying around. Part of the problem is by the time you get to, in the traditional workflow, by the time you get to asking the question, I know in most of the architect firms we work with, the design guy's gone. It's handed off to a CA guy who now doesn't understand the design decisions that were made early on, so he's having to go ask somebody for help. And we felt like if we could get those answers all squared away in design when it's fresh in everybody's mind, and the ramifications of those decisions are made when everybody's working on it fresh, that was a better solution. So RFIs was one of the big things that we were really trying to get rid of here. The unintentional benefits, as it turns out, was communication between the detailer and the engineer was a lot better. That was the first comment out of our detailer's mouth when we started doing all this process. He has direct access to my engineers to ask questions. There's no paperwork. There's no, I guess we'll say, documentation. They call up, they ask a question, this doesn't look right, how do you want to handle this? We make a change and we move forward. The detailer now has more time to get familiar with the building because he's working during design with us and able to offer input into how things should be connected better, find detailing issues that might require a structural change that can be dealt with easily while we're in design rather than CDs are out. And it's not a fire drill anymore. So he's really got some time to think about all this. And of course the electronic review and approval, we do this incrementally as we go through design and review, so areas that we're pretty sure aren't going to change, we can go ahead and finalize those and allow them to scrub those areas and get them finished and ready for the fabrication package while we're still working on other areas. So basically what we've done is we've taken the shop drawing preparation and the review and scrunched it back down here into design, and I'll explain why this overlap is here later, and have a package ready for the fabricator to start fabrication 5 to 6 weeks after CDs go out. So now we've affected 3 of the 4 phases of this whole process. We're doing our design coincidentally with detailing. We're sharing our model data with the detailer, so there's no creation of effort there. We're reviewing electronically. There's no paperwork going along, and all this is kind of going on together at different times.